Diving is often seen as a window into another world, an escape from the noise and chaos of the surface into the quiet, mesmerizing stillness of the deep. For many, the risks that come with strapping on a tank and plunging beneath the waves seem minimal compared to the beauty that awaits. Yet beneath the calm blue waters, things can change in an instant. Equipment malfunctions, sudden currents, or a simple lapse in judgment have turned countless dives into tragedies. But sometimes, what unnerves divers most isn't the possibility of drowning or a mistake of their own making. Instead, it's the chilling realization that they are not alone down there, that something powerful, ancient, and utterly uncontrollable shares the water with them. In this story, we're going to walk through several unforgettable encounters, moments where divers, swimmers, and even entire communities realized that the ocean and rivers they thought they knew held far more danger than they imagined. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Intro music fades. In early October 2024, the waters near Timor-Leste, a small island nation just north of Australia, became the stage for a discovery that sent shockwaves through the diving community. 1. Morning. A local fisherman spotted a massive shark behaving strangely ahead of his boat. Sharks are built for constant motion, sleek, graceful predators gliding through the currents. But this one wasn't moving as it should. It seemed sluggish, weak, even sick. Its movements lacked the usual menace, almost as if it were struggling to survive. Believing the shark might have swallowed plastic or become tangled in a net, the fisherman decided to put it out of its misery. After killing it, he hauled the enormous animal aboard his boat, expecting that once he opened its stomach he'd find ocean garbage, the sort of debris that sadly kills countless sea creatures every year. What he found was not trash. Inside the belly of the shark were unmistakable human remains. The body, horrifyingly, still wore a black wetsuit and parts of a swimsuit. Alongside it were bits of diving gear. News spread quickly, and authorities wasted no time stepping in. Was this the tragic result of a shark attack? Or did something far more complicated happen? For Colleen and her husband Mike, this trip was supposed to be the dream of a lifetime. A 7-week diving journey through some of the most pristine and untouched waters on Earth. At 68 years old, Colleen was no beginner. She was a veteran diver, highly experienced and well prepared for challenges under the sea. On September 26, 2024, Colleen joined Mike and 5 other divers for a trip off Pulau Rayong, a tiny island in Indonesia's sprawling archipelago. Conditions. That day seemed nearly perfect. The group remained close to the boat, descending to a depth of just 23 feet or 7 meters. The current, though present, was manageable, and visibility was crystal clear. It should have been another dreamlike dive in paradise. But the ocean is unpredictable. Without warning, the current shifted. Colleen began drifting away from the group, carried toward what divers dread most, a downward current. Sometimes described as an underwater waterfall, a down current is like a hidden river flowing vertically, sucking divers deeper and deeper before they can react. The dive guide recognized the danger immediately and signaled the others to adjust, but within moments Colleen was gone. Search efforts began at once. Divers, boats, and even aerial scans combed the area for 8 long days. But there was no trace of Colleen. What began as a long-awaited adventure had transformed into a nightmare. Then came the fisherman's discovery and the gut-wrenching confirmation. The body inside the shark was identified as Colleen's through fingerprint analysis. But that answer only raised new questions. The people who knew Colleen best refused to believe she had been killed by a shark. Her husband Mike was adamant. Longtime friends and dive shop owners Kim and Rick, both highly experienced divers themselves, agreed. Reviewing Colleen's dive computer logs and photographs from that day, they became convinced the shark had not killed her. More likely, they argued, it had scavenged her body after death. There were reasons for this belief. For one, sharks have intensely acidic stomachs capable of breaking down bone and cartilage quickly. Had Colleen truly been inside that shark for more than a week, her body should have been unrecognizable. But it wasn't. Her wetsuit remained intact, and her fingerprints were preserved, details that directly contradicted what science knows about shark digestion. To those closest to Colleen, it seemed far more plausible that she had suffered a sudden medical emergency underwater, something undetected until it was too late. The shark, they argued, merely encountered her after the fact. This distinction mattered deeply to Colleen's loved ones. She wouldn't have wanted her memory tied to a false shark attack narrative, nor would she have wanted people to fear sharks because of her tragic end. And statistically, shark attacks are astonishingly rare. In 2024, only 47 unprovoked bites were recorded worldwide, the lowest figure in nearly 3 decades. Fatal shark encounters are even less common. To put things in perspective, humans are hundreds of times more likely to die from hornet or wasp stings than from sharks. The global odds of a shark attack fatality? About 1 in 28 million. Colleen's case, then, remains officially unresolved. Yet her friends and family believe the truth is clear. The shark may have been where her story ended, but it was not the cause of her death. Fast forward to 2005. For most vacationers, the thought of relaxing on the sunny beaches of South Africa or touring its world-class vineyards would be appealing enough. But not for Mark, a 32-year-old from England. Instead, he flew halfway across the world for one purpose: to climb into a steel cage, drop into shark-infested waters, and come face to face with the ocean's most feared predator, the great white shark. Mark's adventure took him to Hermanus, a port town near Cape Town renowned for whale watching and cage diving tours. The morning of his dive, the weather was perfect. The crew prepared the cage while bait, known as chum, a mixture of blood and fish parts, was tossed into the sea. Within minutes, smaller sharks appeared, circling the boat. Then came something much larger. An enormous great white, estimated at nearly 18 feet long, almost as big as the boat, cut through the water with chilling grace. The captain asked Mark the obvious. Was he sure he wanted to go through with this? Without hesitation, Mark said yes. Descending into the 3-foot cage, Mark prepared for the thrill of his life. But what he got was far more intense. The massive shark began circling, its movements deliberate, predatory. Suddenly, it lunged, ramming the cage so hard it rattled like a tin can. Mark told himself this was all part of the experience. But then the shark clamped its jaws onto the bars and shook violently. Metal bent. A buoy burst. The cage began to sink. Mark wasn't on scuba gear, just a mask. Every few seconds he had to surface, dodging the shark as he gasped for air while terrified passengers screamed above. The crew tried to drive the animal off, even striking it with an iron pole, but the shark refused to retreat. At one point, Mark faced an impossible choice: stay below and risk drowning, or surface and risk being attacked. In a desperate move, he surged upward, slipped out of the cage's opening, and grasped the captain's hand. One misstep, and he would have fallen directly into the predator's gaping mouth. Against all odds, he made it back on deck, shaken, but alive. For witnesses, it was easy to label the shark a monster. The violent thrashing against the cage seemed to confirm every Hollywood stereotype, but marine biologists argued otherwise. What happened, they explained, wasn't an attack, but mouthing, a way sharks explore strange objects in their environment. In other words, the shark may not have been hunting Mark at all, but investigating the unfamiliar metal structure. Mark, however, insisted his version was true. Photographs showed the cage mangled beyond repair, and video captured just how close he had come to losing an arm. Regardless of interpretation, Mark got what he wanted: a once-in-a-lifetime brush with death. Far from swearing off diving, he later said he'd gladly do it all over again. Argentina, December 2013. While much of the world celebrated Christmas in cold winter air, the city of Rosario sweltered in summer heat. With temperatures soaring above 100°F, locals flocked to the Piranha River to cool off. Families splashed in the shallows. Children laughed. And for a while, the river offered relief from the brutal sun. Then the screaming began. At first, it was a few scattered cries. Within moments, chaos spread. Swimmers thrashed toward shore, many clutching bleeding hands and feet. Parents rushed into the water to drag their children out. The festive atmosphere dissolved into horror. What had happened was soon clear. A swarm of Palometa piranhas had launched a sudden feeding frenzy. These fish, with razor-sharp teeth designed to shear flesh instantly, struck with terrifying speed. More than 70 people were injured, including at least 20 children. 7 lost parts of their fingers or toes. One young girl had the tip of her finger bitten clean off. Experts believe the extreme heat played a role. High water temperatures not only drove more people into the river, but also made the fish more aggressive, speeding up their metabolism. Combined with possible food shortages or discarded bait upriver, the conditions aligned for a perfect storm. Though piranhas rarely attack humans in such numbers, that Christmas morning became an exception no one in Rosario would forget. Finally, we turn to the Kali River, a turbulent waterway straddling India and Nepal. Locals there whisper of a creature known as the goonch catfish, a bottom-dwelling giant that can grow over 6 feet long and weigh more than 150 pounds. Ordinarily, catfish are scavengers, but villagers believed the goonch had developed a darker taste. Funeral rituals along the river often released half-burnt remains into the water. Over time, some feared the goonch had grown accustomed to human flesh. In 1998, those fears appeared, justified when a 17-year-old boy named Dill was suddenly dragged beneath the surface. Witnesses could only watch as he vanished. His body was never recovered. Months later, another boy disappeared the same way. By 2007, a third victim was taken. 3 vanishings, all in a 6-kilometer stretch of river. The tales caught the attention of British angler and biologist Jeremy Wade, known for investigating freshwater monsters. Skeptical at first, Jeremy considered crocodiles, sharks, or whirlpools as explanations, but none matched the details. Eventually, all signs pointed back to the goonch. During his investigation, Jeremy captured 2 record-breaking catfish from the Kali, one weighing 160 pounds, another even larger at 161. Though massive, they weren't conclusively large enough to account for dragging grown men under. Still, Jeremy admitted the possibility remained. If ordinary goonch could reach such sizes, what might one become after decades of feeding on funeral remains? For the villagers along the Kali, the answer was clear. Somewhere in those murky depths, a true man-eater still lurked. From the mystery of Colleen's disappearance, to Mark's harrowing cage encounter, to the sudden frenzy in Argentina, and the shadow of the goonch in the Kali River, each of these stories reveals the same truth. When humans enter the water, we are visitors in an alien world. Down there, our rules no longer apply. And whether through natural tragedy, rare predatory behavior, or unexplained disappearances, the realization that we are not alone is one of the ocean's most haunting lessons. Thanks so much for watching. If you've got a story suggestion, check the link in the description. And as always, stay safe and I'll see you in the next one.